Hi, my name is Steve Snapp, and thank you for joining us for this first episode of Getting Started. Attached in the email that you just received is the NDA, a budgetary quote, and also what we call the project document, which is essentially an Excel format. There'll be a Google format of that document as well that we can use in the future. But let me start by just talking a little bit about our model. Our focus is always around reducing risk and building momentum. And so the things that I'm going to talk about in this video go into more detail on how we do that risk reduction strategy and also how do we build momentum. Now, this is just a quick introductory video. There'll be follow-up videos either via email and or a link to additional videos if you'd like to jump ahead and watch those videos when I'm done with this video. But let's start by talking about what we call the risk-free prototype. So the first thing about the risk-free prototype is our whole philosophy is rooted in reducing risk. And the way that we do that is we do that by actually demonstrating and creating a solution before you spend any money. Now, what you're going to quickly realize is that there is a time investment for you and your team, but we do that because historically CRM has usually required, or clients who implement CRM are usually required to invest huge amounts of money in CRM technology and consulting before they exactly know how the solution is actually going to work. And the example that I often share with people is that in a traditional sort of Salesforce implementation, you might be spending $2,000 per user per year on a license for what's called Sales or Service Cloud. And very, very frequently, you might spend that same amount of money per user on implementation. So if you've got 100 users, you're essentially spending $200,000 on software and $200,000 on consulting before you actually see what it is you're going to do. And so the risk-free prototype is designed to solve that problem because we believe that by building the solution in a risk-free environment, it frees you to identify the real problems that you're solving. And in addition to that, it helps us build tremendous relationships with our clients. So as part of this email, you got the NDA, non-disclosure agreement. And the purpose for that is that when you're ready to actually start the RFP, the risk-free prototype, we'd like you to sign that NDA so that you feel comfortable sending us your data. The NDA is not designed to protect us in any way. It's really there so that you feel comfortable sending us some or all of your data when that's appropriate. So the NDA really is about being able to send data. In the next video, when I talk more in detail about the risk-free prototype, I'm going to go into much more detail on how we use that data. I'll just basically say that when we get a spreadsheet of data from a client, we use that not only to identify what we call the data mapping and the data model, but we also actually use it to help identify some of the key processes as well as some of the key screen designs. So again, in the next video, we'll go into much more detail on how we do that. But in addition to the risk-free prototype is what we call momentum building or momentum creation. And the basic idea is that when you start implementing CRM, you start the process, momentum is a very, very, very important element that we want to build. And so the way that we do that is through what we call meeting rhythm. And so meeting rhythm is designed to create, let's just say weekly, it could be several times a week, it could be monthly. It's probably not more than monthly. It might not be as much as weekly, that's my point. But we decide on and establish a consistent meeting day and time. And during that day and time, we accomplish several things, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But the purpose of establishing meeting rhythm is that it establishes a cadence and a process that we maintain. Now, when we establish that, like I said, we will find a convenient day and time to work with you. And usually that ends up being a Tuesday and Thursday on our side, but we can find a day that works for you. But in addition to meeting with you on that cadence, I also recommend that you establish, and you may want to do this even before you start meeting with us, you may want to establish an internal meeting cadence. It's the same idea, it's just internally focused. And that's where you bring your team together and you work on the various priorities and objectives that you're trying to accomplish. So the purpose of meeting rhythm is to build momentum. And it does that by establishing a habit or a cadence to accomplish things on a daily and or weekly basis. So the big idea with momentum is that you may need a lot of momentum in the beginning. You may need less, let's say after you go live, and then there may be phases over time where you need to increase or reduce momentum. So the beauty of the cadence model or the rhythm model is that you can increase your rhythm if you need to, or you can reduce it. But what we're really establishing at the beginning is the emphasis on rhythm and or momentum. Now, that's just a quick introduction into the way that we work and a quick introduction into the risk-free prototype. Now, as I said, in the email that you received, you'll have a link to these other videos. The project doc that you also have has a tab in there that has all these videos listed. And finally, you'll have access to these on the YouTube channel. There'll be a playlist called Getting Started, etc. So the point is you're going to have plenty of time to view these videos, but you'll also be getting an email from us either monthly or weekly just to remind you of these various things. So let's end by talking about how do you get started. Well, number one, if you're ready to get started and you want to start working with us, then click the link in the description to my calendar and schedule an opportunity to schedule what we call the launch call. If you're not ready to start the risk-free prototype and take that step, you can definitely start the internal preparation. I'd recommend that you create a weekly or monthly meeting. In that meeting, I recommend that you start to use the project document that's attached in the email to start to unpack certain things like your data model, unpack your workflow, your key processes, your key behaviors, your key metrics, et cetera. All of that's in there. And in one of the videos to come, there'll be a more in-depth review of that project doc and how we use it. And so finally, thank you for taking a few minutes to watch this. Please watch the next video in the series. And if you're ready, go ahead and schedule a call and we'll get started. Thank you.